Well,
That's okay.
it's just us girls talking. That's all
Yeah.
it is. So, I mean, and which is the nice part. We never really generally have an audience because the guys are too scared to be in the room with us.
When I promote the broadcast, I say it is not safe for children for sure, and it's also not safe for husbands.
Yeah, we told my daughter that I was going to be on with you guys, and she wasn't supposed to come in cussing. So hopefully that'll work.
That okay? So I guess we're not supposed to cuss.
No, you guys can cuss. I didn't want her.
We'll try to restrain ourselves.
I'll try and think about it. I don't generally.
We really don't do it very often, but it does sometimes pop out or not.
I do. I do because 30 years in the theater, if you don't swear, you're suspect, right? So so every now and then I keep dropping certain words like commas and get looked at a lot. So I'm like, oh, that's right. I have to be polite. Unless I'm around all the Navy guys, and then I swear like a sailor, so it's okay.
The sailors swear.
Start
the other direction. The sailors swear like you.
I guess they do. Yes, they swear like me. Just the way it is.
You were getting comments from the Marine earlier. So.
Yes, I was. We had our press meeting earlier today, and the Sergeant Major Marine was going, "Yes, Gunny. Yes, Gunny." And I'm like, I don't know if that's good or not. So,
yep,
cute. He was really cute.
Yeah.
But we're very, very glad that you were able to join us, especially because today is the day that the anthology opens. So even though the recording won't come out today, it feels very, very, very completionist to do this recording on the day that Alien Family Values opens.
So it's celebratory that we've gotten to this point. So.
Yes.
And none of us have imploded. So
far.
What we wanted to talk to you about is, obviously we'll come to the anthology, but I think we wanted to go back before that and talk and ask you when you started writing and why you started writing.
Okay. Do you want me to start at the very beginning?
Yes.
In kindergarten.
Actually, I had an 8th grade teacher who walked into the classroom on the first day and took the grammar book and tossed it in the trash can. And he said, "We're not going to do the textbook at all. We're going to spend the entire year writing." And that's what we did.
Yeah.
So we did essays, we did scripts, we did poetry, we did short stories. So my best grades came from the short stories. And I did an essay the night before it was due. And he wrote on the essay, "It's a good topic, but don't do it at the last minute." And I think he gave me a B- or something like that. And I had always had A's. So I thought, how did he know this? And then when I started teaching, I ended up telling the kids the same thing. Don't do it at the last minute. Okay, but when I really started writing, I was a proofreader tech editor for Navy journals, for flight checklists for Navy pilots. I worked for a little tiny printing company. And from there, I went to writing business materials, newsletters, manuals for a computer company. And so then I just ended up spending my entire career writing help materials, procedures, policies and procedures.
So much more technical writing.
Yeah. Instructions for secretaries and managers and things like that. And I got into newsletters. And so I was pretty happy just doing teaching guides, things like that. And then this guy came along and he said, "Can you help me write a novel that's set on a faraway planet with intelligent cephalopods?" And I kind of went, okay, I'll give it a try. So I had gone from journalism because I had written for 3 newspapers. And I had done some creative nonfiction for magazines and everything like that. So I said, okay, I'm just going to tackle this the same way. And particularly in terms of things like who, what, where, when, how, lots of description, lots of show, not a whole lot of tell. And I was really surprised at people's reactions to my characters. When the book was published, I would read people's comments, and a lot of times they would say, but what I really loved was this certain character. And I was kind of like, oh, wow, gee, Sally Field moment. They like me. So anyway, that's how I got started. So then I've been co-writing, and my co-writer has gone on to bigger things. And so I'm kind of like trying to help other people get started and editing and things like that. What I like the most is helping people.
Yeah, I understand that feeling.
Yeah. So are you currently teaching writing or?
I was teaching writing to homeschoolers. Actually, I was teaching journalism, and I was always emphasizing fair and balanced journalism. And it's really hard to get kids to understand what you mean these days. So I moved into, I used to teach a class to homeschool kids called So You Want to Be a Writer. And with that, we would tell them what they needed to do to write, how they needed to plot or be pantsers. And I would interview lots of writers. So I had gotten in contact with people like Sarah Hoyt. Tom Kratman actually did a talk with us. Stephanie Osborne, people like that. Cedar, this lady named Cedar did a talk with us. But so the kids got a chance to hear actual writers talk about things, how they got their ideas. And that's the biggest question kids always ask was, well, how did you get your idea for this or that? But in the meantime, we also talked about marketing and publicity and things like that. And then from there, that's really where I kind of got my idea that I was pretty good at editing, because I wasn't concentrating. I would have these kids come to me and say, oh, well, my previous teacher said I had to have 50 words that ended in ly in my essay. And I would say, no, no, you have to tell your story.
Yes.
I think, wait, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
But
there's actually a homeschool curriculum that emphasizes that they have to learn how to use adverbs in it, and if they don't have a certain number of ly words in it, they get marked down on their essays.
If they're being taught how to use it specifically, but also
I remember being discouraged from using adverbs. So
the great adverb debate.
Right.
So
because I can remember being taught, and this is long ago, far away, but I can remember being taught that it was better to find a more precise word than to use a modifier word. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was homeschoolers that were being taught this, because that's who I was working with.
So that's why I was like, But there are a lot of homeschool curriculums out there. A lot.
Yeah, there are. So I would have parents come to me and say, oh, are you using the IEW, or are you using this or that? And I'd say, no, I'm using my own experience as a journalist and as a business writer, writing manuals and stuff. And to me, I would tell the kids the biggest thing is your author's voice. When you write, I want you to write you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to write what your teacher says or what your dad tells you and stuff like that. I had a beautiful young girl that was very talented writing short stories for me. And she was in a class and she ended up dropping out because every time she wrote something, her dad would come in and change it and tell her that she was doing it wrong and she had to write this or that. Yeah. So I'm hoping that someday that she'll get back into it when she's an adult.
Yeah, that's sad. I mean, and it's something I've seen with even just authors in critique groups or submitting and having an editor say, "Oh, I want you to change this and that and the other thing." That's one of the reasons that I know that you're really light with, have a light hand with your when you.
Well, yeah, I want to maintain the author's voice, because every voice is unique, and it's, at least part of that's from my experience of you must change this to fit what I think a story should be, from that I got as a beginning writer. And I really hate that with because you end up with authors who will not advocate for themselves, because when you start by taking parts out of their voice out of the things that they wrote, you're removing parts of them from their creativity and their artwork. So I really dislike that, and you end up with a whole bunch of authors who are neurotic. I mean, we're already neurotic, but
No, never noticed that part ever.
Who are neurotic and who will sign stupid contracts, and who won't, like, well, this is I'm being told by someone who knows better how to do this, and it's like, well, maybe they don't know better.
Yeah.
Maybe they know their way that works for them, but it's not you. So it's like, one of the things I think one of the things I took from my early writing, why I did everything, and I feel like I did most things in a vacuum for the first 15 years of my career, was that I'm going to maintain my voice, and didn't let anybody else
good decision
change it.
Really good decision.
So
yeah, and I know that we're really looking forward to working with you on this anthology, Sandra. This is it looks, I mean, the premise looks like fun, because I didn't get to be there when you pitched it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were
so
with
I
us.
wasn't there.
Yeah, so it was really kind of fun.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen the artwork that I created.
I have.
Oh, you did see it.
Oh,
yay!
good.
Okay, good.
So I'm very much all in on the concept, but I'd love to hear more about how it came into being, because I missed that part of the conversation.
Well, to preface that, we'd actually started with a different project that we were going to do, but the author's ideas ran away with them. So we just kind of went, okay, take that back. And then you came to us with this whole completely different thing. And we were like squeeing all over the place about it.
Because it was,
it was so much fun. So we'll let you explain that. So,
okay. So one of the guys that we bounce ideas around with, and I were talking about stuff, and we kind of said, what if there was a galactic war? And so some of the more secure planets said, hey, we're open to fostering people. Let's say you have to bring in kids from war-torn families or something like that. And then he said, what if we had, and you have to remember that Stranger Things had just come out. He said,
okay.
Yeah.
What if you had 4 different species of young kids sitting around playing a D&D type game, and they ended up in some sort of situation like they did with Stranger Things? And so we started talking about this, and you all know how it is when writers get brainstorming. And so, oh wow, yeah, like you can have a cat kid, and you can have maybe you have a dinosaur kid and a human kid, and you have, and then from there it just grew. Well, what if you actually had families that started fostering? So what if you had human family on a planet, and so they took in a Gila monster type of kid or something like that? What would happen? And so that got me to thinking about what we see just with human adoption stories. I have tons of friends who have adopted kids from other countries, and some of it has turned out good and some of it has turned out bad. So what if you kind of just took and turned this around with different alien species? you determine what the galactic war was. You know, was it one group invading another group? Was it a planet that was dying and you'd have to get people off of it and into other locations and stuff? But so what are those family values? I mean, what if you, okay, let's take Jonna, for example, because she's got cats.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have cat singular. So,
so what if you had a sentient ability? What if your foster had like a translator or something to talk, and you said, "Okay, I'm taking, you know, I'm up here in North Texas in tiny town. I'm taking this person in as a foster. You know, what's going to happen? I mean, how are they going to adopt to your lifestyle? How are you going to adopt to their lifestyle? Do you guys have the same values?"
Well, if it's a cat alien, then they have to deal with Henry, who's kind of stupid. So they're like, what is this lesser life form?
I think it's interesting because when you first started talking about it, I immediately thought about the evacuation of the children out of London during the Blitz.
Yeah.
And some of those children were shipped over as far as Canada. And when you're talking about a Cockney City kid going to a Canadian farm, there's a huge culture clash, and I'm sure that there was a lot of conflict of values. So,
and the orphan trains from the cities to
so there's actually historical precedent for things that if authors wanted to go kind of in that direction and actually look at some of the historical things that we know of.
Just have this image of a galactic orphan train stopping at various planets and disgorging carloads of kids, you know, of bizarre kids. And like, there's the marine train car, and then there's the hot desert train car, and then you have the different species. And what happens if a marine kid gets dropped on a desert planet, you know?
Ooh, that's not good.
You know, I mean, it's entirely possible that those things can happen. You know, I have a kid living in my pool. I mean, so at least he's clean. I mean, so but
so at the same time, I tend to be happy and positive about this stuff. But at the same time, that we were talking about this and I was trying to come up with a description for it. I was reading in the news about this girl that the family adopted from Eastern Europe, I think. And they were claiming that she was not a 6-year-old or 10-year-old. I don't remember which one, but that she was actually an adult midget, and that it was causing havoc with the family. And they were actually, I guess, accused of abandoning her in an apartment. And there's all this controversy that's happened regarding her. And I thought, what if this adoption or this fostering doesn't turn out good? What kind of horror story could you get with that? So I think that we also have to consider there might be some bad things that happen.
Yeah, and I saw that in the call description too, that it's not just limited to happy, fun, fuzzy stories. Actually, that was one of my concerns with the artwork that I'd created, was that it was maybe too lighthearted. I think it works, and we'll stay with it. But we do hear a lot. There's stories out there all the time of adoptions that just don't work. Foster situations certainly can go in bad ways for both the family and the kids. I mean, I know that the psychology of abandonment can impact even a very, very young child.
There's the orphan train now. So
there's a train.
A train, but
probably travel.
And you get babies that are adopted out, and they're like, well, no, they by size they're 6 months old. They're actually 18 months old, and they're so badly malnourished that they're not thriving. And so in the effort to get them to thrive, they may not be able to actually
and then if you go to Heinlein's Star Beast story, which again that came to my mind when I was looking at this is that the beast in that story was adopted and raised as a pet, but was a sentient being, just unable to communicate. And I think kind of incapable at the beginning. It wasn't until it started to mature more. But basically it was almost like an infant as far as mentality at first. And that's a really fun, it's one of my favorites, the Fine Lines Juvies. So
well, there's also that the species evolve in different ways. I mean, they grow up in different ways. I mean, what if you have a species that's transformative? Right. So it as it grows, it it goes from this fluffy little metamorphosis, or suddenly it won't come out of its room because it's built a shell of some kind, and who knows what's going to come out, right?
Oh my gosh!
Or
metaphors for puberty. Here we are.
right. Well, I mean, it is true, because you have very often species go from they transform through their puberty, So
okay, and here's the thing:
it's a bug species.
James White's Sector General books,
Mm-hmm.
medical care for alien beings on a planet not their own, trying to figure out how to take care of a child that has a medical issue, and there's no one that has any idea what's going on with them. That's a whole other
Or they
challenge.
try to treat what is a normal process.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
Right.
They don't have any clue.
So as you said, Sandra, this starts the ideas fizzing.
Yeah.
So
I just edited a piece about humans going to a different planet and the things that they may face. And the author wrote about allergens and things like that. And so, what if you bring in a different species to your home, and now you're dealing with medical issues of allergens and things, or maybe that species just grows up and decides that you're awfully tasty. And who knows?
We don't know about Junior. He was fine when he got here, but now he's got this weeping skin thing going on.
Yeah. Oh gosh, he hit puberty and now he's giving off spores and giving everybody else hay fever.
Well, there is that, right? So,
or I am Groot.
Well, or you inadvertently put two species together where one is prey.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Or they're allergic to humans.
Allergic to humans.
I'm allergic to humans, but I mean, it's just me. So yeah, there's also just psychological issues involved too. It's like, mom brought home a new kid who's really weird, and I don't know how to deal with this. It's like, or the neighbors don't approve. So it's like, he's great, but he keeps like eating all my pets. So, or something.
Or, we're getting news articles about what's going on, and all of a sudden we have 24 kids that are from the aggressor country that took out one of the colonies that we have friends on.
There's so many different directions this can go, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens with it. So I'm really looking forward to what the authors pull out of their hats.
Well, I like it's sufficiently broad enough. I mean, we were talking earlier that what we see a lot is we get authors who come to us and going, so what do you mean by Weird West? And we're like, Weird West, go. And they're just desperate for more definition. I think maybe because there's a lot of anthologies that are very like, it has to be this in this little tiny box, and you can only we want this, and we want sparkly this and that and everything, and you can't have this. And they give very detailed outlines of what an anthology can be. And we tend to err on the other side of, okay, frame, go.
Very broad.
Which sometimes I think scares authors. So just a little
bit.
With
the ones who are not confident in themselves and in their creativity and their voice, which is another reason why I have a very light hand on a lot of this, is that I think this will be fun. And I'm sending the call to my my cousin. So my cousin's an adoption.
We had
Yeah.
similar issues. We're using a speaker that decided it just didn't want to be there anymore.
Decided to turn off for whatever reason.
Because
So.
it just wanted to. It's just recalcitrant that way.
Mhm.
So it's an alien speaker. It does what it wants.
Okay, so actually, I wanted to address something that Kortnee had said.
Okay.
I'm going to go back for a minute. People that are not quite sure. We talked about the fact that we've got lots of different ideas, and people can go this way or that way or whatever. But I want to offer that anybody that has questions about their story can contact me, and I will help them.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
So, like, if they're new and they're saying, well, I want to give this a try, but I'm not sure. Contact me. Tell me what your idea is. If you just need to bounce ideas off somebody, I'll listen. But even if you're just not sure about writing, send me what you got, and I'll make suggestions about maybe starting with this event instead of that event. I've done this with people I've mentored, and we talked about author's voice. I will make comments, suggestions, but I'm not going to go in and actually change things. I'm going to say,
Right.
maybe you want to try this word, or maybe you've used this word 3 times in 3 sentences. Let's look for something different, because that way that becomes their decision on what they want to change.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of guiding them along like I would do with my students.
Yeah, because we have here, do we have my schedule there? So the schedule on this one is we've just opened. We've just opened on this one. So where is it here? It closes on May 3rd. So we've got like a good solid 2 months for people to be working and sending stuff in. And then you have 2 weeks to pick your final 10. And I'll bet you money we're going to end up having to do a second one because we get so many good ones, because that's kind of normal for us. But in that decision time, we have to decide by the 18th, because I send contracts that day. So, but that gives a good solid time frame for you to offer suggestions for people to run back with it, and then resubmit it. So so we'll be sure to include your information, and you send me which email you would like people to go to, if you'll send that to me, and I'll get that published so we know.
Okay.
And we can do that. So, and that's a very generous offer.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I've worked with some people that I'm very excited. One has been doing real well with selling his short stories, and of course, I think a lot of
ours too. Yeah. Is he one of ours? He's one of ours.
I think a lot of people know I've worked with Rob Hampson and that type of stuff. So, but yeah, I like to help people, and if someone says, I really would like to submit this story, but I'm so scared about doing it, contact me. And if it needs a little bit of work, I'll make some suggestions, and you can decide what you want to do.
See, there you go. Because we're all about baby authors. So we don't care how old they are. They're still baby authors, and they're nervous and scared. But I appreciate the ones that at least try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the most fun you have is when we get a brand new author who's trying something new. I can hardly wait to see all the military guys do Regency. I can hardly wait for that.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, but and it's got a completely different approach to the alien story. That's why I love this idea so much, is because you went off in a whole new direction that's really fun. So, I'm kind of interested to see what we get.
And I love it too, because something that we wound up doing as a press that we didn't start out trying to do. I mean, lots of things, but this is actually very specifically, and it ties together the anthology set that we did earlier called All Will Burn. And it's talking about parents and what they'll do for their children. And I got a really interesting comment when we were promoting the second one, because it has a man sheltering his children in his arms. And the comment was basically that you don't see that on book covers, where you've got a guy being protective and nurturing. and when alien family values came up, I'm like, we're doing it again. We're promoting these strong family stories without, and I mean, we don't want message. We don't want to do like anything like that. But I love the fact that we are gearing towards these really cool themes that aren't things that would necessarily come out of a traditional publishing house.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you were talking about baby authors and nurturing them.
Yeah.
And I think that goes along with it. That whole thing of just we're raising new authors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
In the
love
way we
that.
want them to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I mean, there's not a lot of places that do that. I mean, very much when you become an author, I mean, not my personal experience, but you just kind of get thrown in the deep end of the pool and don't really have a clue. And I've seen this a lot. A lot of our authors are like, okay, was it good? It's like, you submitted, go you. That's more than most 90% of writers do.
You finished a thing. Congratulations.
And I spend a lot of time when we clean out the submissions file, we get they're like, this is my very first story, and I always write them back and say, go you, yay, thank you. So
yeah. Well, and you sent in a wonderful little story for the postcards with the little fairy chihuahua, and that was the cutest thing. I was so happy. But when we were doing the postcards, we got literal baby authors.
Yeah.
We had a story by a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And I love that we get to do that.
Yeah.
We don't have any boundaries or limits. We just want good stories. So that's and because I remember talking to the homeschooling group, and I'm really delighted that you're still teaching that, because as a homeschooled kid, getting that kind of class would have been, I mean, I was homeschooled in an era when there really wasn't a lot of support. So I love people like you are being supportive of homeschoolers. So that is a great thing. And Jonna said something about you're working on an anthology with your students.
No, Kortnee said,
Oh yeah. Or with you were doing the anthology about autistic students. You were talking with Nick and a couple other people.
Parents' stories of having children on the spectrum or neurodivergent. We got a good start to it. I had a couple of people that couldn't meet the deadlines, and so it's kind of on hold. And that's one thing that I'm going to be working on in March. And it started because in our community group on Facebook, there's a lot of people complaining about other people's attitudes in grocery stores. And you have the parent who will say, or this older person who will say, oh, the kid in front of me was just horrible. Somebody needs to teach that kid manners. And at the same time, you have the mom that's saying, hey, my kid is autistic. I am so sorry. I these things set him off, and I try. And I thought, we need to get their stories out there.
Yeah.
So,
my sister is autistic. She's mentally about 4. And grocery stores are seriously overstimulating for her. And mom, when grocery pickup became a thing, my mother was over the moon, because she doesn't have to try and drag Juniper all the way through a store, because it's a lot for an autistic kid. There's a lot of, it's bright colors and noises and all the sensory stimulation, and it's just too much.
Well, it's too much for me, and I'm not spectrum-y. I can just barely go in a grocery store. As it is, I've been here for 2.5 years, almost 3, and I've been in a grocery store once. Twice. I didn't go in twice because I had to get medication for her, but it was under duress and only because she was sick. But yeah.
Thank you.
But no, totally. But it is true though. I mean, they have a completely different life experience.
Yeah.
And without people generally really understanding what their day-to-day existence is like.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. So
I started with music students. I teach music still.
Mm-hmm.
And I tended to see a lot of kids being brought to me that would have issues. And this I started with this one little boy, and I thought to myself, oh, he's Asperger's. And then his mom came to me and she said, I'm having him tested. He is autistic. And these are the things we're working on this week. And it could be eye contact or things like that. So I had this student for 4 years. And when we started, and I would tell him something and he didn't like it, he would have a little fit. And so I would get his mom and I'd say, he's not adapting well. That's okay. I understand. But maybe he shouldn't finish his lesson. And in 4 years, right before he had to move, I gave him a piece and he said, I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you want me to do with this piece. And I said, oh, well, great. Let me rearrange what I'm telling you. And I told him a different way. And he goes, oh, great. I understand it now. So when I told his mom this situation, she almost burst into tears because they had gone from anger and frustration 4 years earlier to him being able to communicate and say, I didn't understand what you wanted me to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were talking about these things, and that's when I said, you know what? People need to hear these stories. They need to know what the parents are going through.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, growing up with my sister's very special needs, and I would go and, because I was homeschooled, and she was going to special needs classes. So I sometimes wound up at the classes myself and interacting with a lot of the kids and the teachers. And there really is, there's a lack of understanding. And I still to this day see people act like they're contagious. And it's just,
it's so weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I'm like, But so, yeah, that's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart because it is really important. And there's a lot of misunderstanding to this day. And when you see media portrayals, it doesn't help any.
No.
So, yeah, I think a book of my stories about that is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
really hope that moves forward.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Definitely let us know when you get to a point where you're ready to release, because I know I will happily promote that wherever I can.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll need you guys' help when it comes to the publishing, because I told everybody that we would do pub share. They would all have an equal share.
Oh yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And then we'll put it out independently. I've had people say, well, don't you want to try to shop it to a publisher? And I thought, I think I would rather do it independent and,
you have you have a lot more control if you do it independent.
You can also get it out in under a year. So, oh, what an idea! Actually, release the book. So
you'll be able to.
Is that my sarcasm showing?
You'll be able to control things like the cover and how and where it's promoted and marketed.
Yeah,
because
it's much better approach.
Even if you go with a publisher, you'd wind up doing a lot of that yourself anyway.
Yeah.
So
and they take a much bigger margin. PubShare is so much better way to go. So
PubShare is fantastic for small projects like this. I mean, I managed 5 or 6 anthologies myself, which is something I never thought I would do until I got introduced to PubShare through an anthology I was working with. And just being able to make sure that my authors got paid without me having to take on the headache of trying to wrangle
so much easier.
All the accounting.
So much easier. Whole accounting back, So
yeah,
it's like we don't like that part. No. So not fun stuff. So so you're working on that more in March to kind of get that moving again.
Yeah,
excellent. Yep. So what writing are you doing for yourself?
I have I have a character that's special. to my heart. And my husband keeps telling me that I need to expand on her. Her story was in the first Haunted Libraries book.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
And my husband has actually laid out an entire TV series for me.
Well,
No ambition.
So I'm kind of like, okay, after I get all this other stuff done, yes, I will give her the concentration she deserved. But I did go to MidJourney, and I made up pictures of what I thought she looked like, and
great.
stuff like that. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that is one of the really nice things about having the AI art tool, is that you can do the concept sketches and really flesh out a character or a setting, and it's a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
I know our copy editor with Raconteur Press does that while she's copy editing stories. She'll actually create art of the stories that she's working on, because it gives her a little break from the story, and she does some really fabulous stuff.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, her artwork is amazing.
Yeah.
she's having way too much fun. Yeah, I was like, don't put her too far on the back burner.
So
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, well, a lifetime of knowing authors, which I have a huge pile on my Facebook bookcase. It's seriously, I hear a lot about these wonderful characters that never make it into print, and I would just like, please make her live. So,
the MidJourney thing was so cool, because I had a dragon kind of looking over her shoulder as she's sitting there reading a book and everything. And I was just like, okay, yes, I have to make you live. Yes.
I love it.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yay. Because when she's staring at you from the
Right.
picture behind your desk, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever saw this movie, but it was a version of the Christmas Carol and Charles Dickens. The guy that was in Downton Abbey played Charles Dickens, but his characters showed up in his office room. And they followed him around on the streets, and wherever he went, they were there yammering at him. I sat and watched that thing and laughed hysterically. And my husband's going, because I said, that's what characters do. I mean, I wake up at 2 a.m. with this character. Well, Jonna knows. I had this character wake me up at about 11:30, and I said, Jonna, can you help me with this character?
she collects goat figurines. So, I know it was totally a whim, but it just really struck me that she would have those. So, but yes, she's a fun character. But yeah, you guys get characters. I get dresses yammering in my head. So weird. I mean, I get them to stop bothering me, because they're like, now we're going to design the sleeves. My brain goes, nope. Sleep out, because I hate sleeves. But but yeah, it gets so noisy for you guys, doesn't it?
Sometimes.
Yeah, if I haven't gotten back to a story after a while, they're like, we're waiting. Especially, I tend to leave my characters in awkward situations.
I haven't written in several days because stress and life stuff. And I had been writing every single day. And this morning I had this thing just pop into my head, totally unrelated to anything. And I had to write it down, because then now it's out of my head, and I can be like, not writing you, going off.
Yeah.
Do you have that happen to you, where you just have to get up and write? There's just no option. Does that ever? Yeah, I figure most authors I know have that issue. So it's like,
so I actually created a character. My brother contacted me and said, I need. I was working on a character, and he said, I need a mafia boss, because I have to work it into a later part of the story. And so I created this. I was actually imagining Danny DeVito. My brother changed him into like 6 feet tall, but
stretch.
But I created this character, and we're doing the 4th book, and this guy's still going strong. And
yeah, it's a good mafia character. Oh, it doesn't.
I am fascinated by the whole concept of, I created a character. My characters just arrive in my head. There they are. So I don't create, at least I don't feel like I'm creating anything. I'm just like writing down what they tell me.
But they start talking to you. And from their talking to you, then you come up with their accent and their look and their mannerisms and stuff like that. I have like one character that just takes his hands and rubs them over his face when he's frustrated. I don't know where that stuff comes from, but it's cool.
Magic.
It's your subconscious who's like, okay, this if it does this and does this and this, it is absolutely connected to something in his backstory that you don't need to know about, but your brain does. And so it's developed that into like this one mannerism, this one thing that he does. So it's fascinating.
I do have some control. I mean, the novella that was supposed to be done by Valentine's Day, and no, but I was trying to figure out if he could ride a horse, and we talked to my alpha readers about it, and we kind of came to the conclusion that if he could ride a horse, he'd be too perfect, too competent. So he's going to have to learn how to ride from his love interest, which works because that does develop the character. So even though I've got this guy that arrived in my head, I started writing, I also have to figure out and how it advances the story and the plot too, because by refining his character, I'm also sending the plot in different directions towards my ultimate end goal. Because this one is a romance, so I know what my end goal is. That's the nice thing about romance is you know where you're going to wind up.
At least you hope you will.
How to get there. Well, I had one story where I actually I had to change a couple of the other characters, like the main character stayed who he was, but I had to change some of the other characters because it was already at 24,000 words. So I needed to kick out a subplot.
So too much plot. Put some plot back.
So more plot back. I like, no, she's not the love interest. She's his sister. We got all of that out.
Put her over there. She can be her own story later. So
and she is, and it still ended up at 15,000 words. I mean, I might go back and redo it with and turn it into a full novel. But I'm like, nope. He's like, I can't have that relationship exist with all the rest of this going on. Because there's just too much there. Because I'd have to work that plot along with all of the other plot, and there was just
not working.
It was just too much.
Not working.
So I feel like I kind of nerfed her as a character, but that's okay.
But she still exists. You can go back to her.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I turned her into a bird anyway. So
the thing about writing short stories versus writing novels or novellas is that you have to take a hatchet to the plot sometimes. And you can have the whole backstory of the character in your head, but you might not want that on the page for this story.
Yes.
So but that's the fun thing about like your character that your husband made the whole TV series about. Obviously, there's more there, and you could have, if you didn't want to try and do full novels, you could do linked short stories and then eventually collect them all.
True.
So, because I know that there is a reversion of rights after a year on the Haunted Libraries, I think it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have the option to write the short stories, especially if you don't feel like you have time to work on a novel right now. So write short stories and then join them all together.
I mean, it just hasn't done that already.
Right.
So, right? So we're instigators. We can't help ourselves. So it's like,
that's how I feel about her. She seems more like a short story person that I link together. So I kind of feel that way about it.
That's excellent. Yay.
And we will always encourage you to write fun stories that fill you with joy, if nothing else. Because those are the best stories.
You can tell.
I've written a lot of short stories that I've never submitted because I always miss the deadline by about a week or so. And I'll be like, oh, no, I got to get this finished. and I come up with the ideas and write it. So eventually I'll get them sent in to you guys.
I was going to say, I mean,
Yeah.
if they're already done,
Well, either send them in to us or take them and create a collection.
yeah,
They don't have to be linked to put them all under one cover as a collection.
there is that.
I that's right. I see that people doing that, like Jason.
I do it
I
myself.
was going to say, not like you don't know people who could like walk you through that process.
Yeah.
So
We've never done that.
we're all about like get the word out there, right? Yeah, we're very much that way. That's how we live. So
Yeah.
Well, I do want to get my newspaper columns put up. I was talking to another author that mentors people, and he was telling me, get your newspaper columns. I've got them sorted out into different categories, like Christmas and family and stuff like that. But I do want to put those up as a backlog type of stuff.
yeah, your
Yeah,
back
for
sure.
sure.
It already
Yeah.
exists. Why not? Right.
Right.
So
Mhm.
yeah, she's like a one-woman book company, right? Have you
Right.
noticed that? You've got so much
Yeah.
great stuff. So
No, I think that's fabulous. I mean, I need to work on collecting all of the articles and essays that I've written over the last 18 years of blogging, both my personal blog and the Mad Genius Club. And I know I've got all of it. All I need to do is collate it and put a cover on there and put it out there. So it's not, you can definitely do this.
and she turns and points at Kortnee.
I was not pointing at Kortnee.
No, I was doing that. I was doing that because I know
would go-
she's in the same circumstance. So
I know nothing.
I have
no.
the concealing, claim innocence because
Yeah.
no.
No, but and here's the other thing too that I know I've done with the Mad Genius Club, which is basically that I've made a lot of mistakes in public and also written out my processes in public because it's a teaching tool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very much so.
And so I've been very much about teaching since Amanda and Sarah sat me down and said, "So, how do you feel about writing for?" But even before that, I was trying to do like, okay, I screwed up here, don't do that.
Rising
So,
tide to help them go past the mistakes, and then so they don't have to make them themselves. You know?
when I first started writing, I had Sarah Hoyt and Dave Freer were mentors, and I was helped by a lot of other people too, not just them, but just encouragement sometimes, and other times more practical, like you should take this workshop, or here's some resources that helped me. So my thing has always been to pay it forward and
I get
pass
that.
on the
That's
the
a good thing.
knowledge.
It's a really good
So,
thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's
It definitely makes a difference.
mhm.
So to recap, since we've been talking for almost an hour, it's like we could go on and on. Lord knows we have on previous occasions. So Alien Family Values has opened, and you have generously offered to offer assistance to folks who are maybe feeling stuck or not really sure where to go or want to know if that's heading in the right direction. So I will post that email in, if you'll send that to me, I will post that with this.
Yes, we can list
And
it
then
with
we'll put it on the open call on the Substack and stuff so people can find that to know that they can go with you. But they should have something going first and not just flood you. So and then we'll get going on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see what people turn in, and
It should be really fun.
yeah.
Really fun.
Did you have any questions for us, Sandra? Since we were mostly talking and asking you questions, but did you have anything you wanted to ask us?
What's your 2025 schedule look like?
That was a subject of conversation earlier.
Okay, so here's July on our publication schedule. You see how crazy busy this is? So July is when we're starting. We'll be doing our planning for the next year.
Yeah, we'll be formalizing.
Yeah.
Right now we know things like if Alien Family Values runs to a second volume, then it probably
it'll
will.
kick to 2025.
It'll be in 2025.
Yeah.
And we've already got a number of things where
Yes.
we know that they're going to be happening in 2025. We just haven't set them
Yeah.
into place.
So we'll be doing all of our
So-
scheduling at the end of July, looking because we have to backdate some of the opening dates into the end of the year for that. And people send us some really great ideas. So if you have one or two, she says pointedly. So, did I just use it? Anyway, I used an LY word. We are happy to entertain them. So
Okay.
yeah, and we'll offline. We'll talk to you more about process and how we work through all this stuff. So,
Okay.
you didn't have to be our guinea pig. James Young got to be our guiney pig. Poor thing. So
He has broad shoulders. He can take.
he
it.
can
Yes.
take it.
And
So
I'm writing up the best our
Best
best
practices.
practices, so
Yeah.
so that we're not telling you, oh no.
right. So yeah, but we're really excited. We think this is going to be a terrific anthology, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get. So
Okay. Great. Yeah, I was a little concerned because I thought, what if I get like 5 stories?
oh, that's not going to
That's not going to be a problem.
No.
that has never been an issue here, and we have a whole. What's really fun is over the last year we've developed this stable of
Authors
who are just
phenomenal.
like they're ready and they're like are you doing one? We have a Discord for our authors where we talk and they're all like, okay, the next one's coming, it's open, I've started doing this, and they're all making each other accountable and we're also getting cross-pollination with other small presses too. So
Sandra, do you do
That's what I enjoy. I like
Do you do Discord?
Yes, I do. I was
Okay.
trying to remember. They changed their usernames, and I had to go in and mess with that. But I didn't know you had a Discord channel.
We'll get you into the Rack Press Discord because I will get you in direct contact.
yeah, because
with
then they'll
some
be
of the
able to ask you
authors.
questions there because we
So-
have channels for each specific book, so they'll be able to chat with you there.
Yeah.
So guys who are paying attention and going, what does she want? Because they'll all be sitting listening to this going, okay, writing their little notes because they're adorable. They'll be able to talk to you on Discord as well. So
And worst case scenario, there are a couple that I can go and beat on and say, give me a story. And I'll get a yes, ma'am.
We're not going to have any problems.
No.
Honestly.
No,
It's
we
just-
won't. This is a lovely theme.
Oh, it
I'm
really
excited
is.
about
It
this.
really
so.
is, and it's just it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm really looking forward to all the fun that we're going to have with this, I think.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
See, that wasn't so hard, was it?
I think that was pretty good. I used to produce a radio show, or two radio shows. So, but I was never on the air. I always was behind the scenes. So this
Tech
was a
girl.
little different. Yeah.
Well, out front isn't so bad. So
it's not.
okay.
And we're mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless.
We look at the ceiling now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sandra. It was wonderful to talk to you. And thank you for the fantastic idea.
Yes.
Like this is going to be
Yeah.
This will be a lot of fun.
Have fun with this
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Thank you so
and we will see you online.
Okay. I'm just going to leave the studio, right?
Yep. Sounds good.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.